Hey guys, welcome to Unit 8, Lesson 3. Our topic today is constructing exponential functions. So the warm-up is given to you. Try that. Before you even try the warm-up, I actually just wanted to bring this equation to your attention, y equals abx. This is the same equation which you have been seeing this equation. In your first lesson, you did y equals a parentheses 1 plus r to the x, right? That was 1 plus rate. So now the rate 1 plus r, b is basically your 1 plus r. We're substituting it with b, which is called your growth factor, right? So we'll talk more about a and b. Try the do now, and then you'll be able to answer your own question. Okay, so the do now says an exponential function of the form y equals abx, it's given here, also is presented in the table below. Determine the values of a and b. Okay, so let's write this down. Your a is your initial, or or we can say your a is basically your y-intercept. Okay, so you know which is what? 0, 5. So a will be 5. And b is your growth factor. How are the y values going up? Look at the pattern. What is it going up? It's 5, then 15, then 45. Since it's an exponential equation, it's going to be multiplied by a certain number, and that number has to be consistent throughout. 5, which is what? 3. Do you agree? 15 times 3 is 45. 45 times 3 is 145. So your b is your growth factor. Why did I call it growth? Because it's a number greater than 1. If a number, remember, if your number is between 0 and 1, if your b is between 0 and 1, it's a decay. If it is a number greater than 1, it is a growth. So let's say if this was a smaller number, then I would have a number between 0 and 1. I would have said it's a decay factor. So that's what I said. So a is your initial y-intercept. B is your growth or decay factor depending on what the question is giving. Growth factor. Okay, so what would be your equation? So anytime you're writing your exponential equation, just like you wrote linear equations, you don't substitute anything for x and y, but your a and b, you need to know those. So a is what? 5, 3 to the x. Now be very careful. The x is only raised to the third power. It's not being multiplied, it's raised. Okay, it's caret x. And you can always check, put this in the calculator in y1, and do you get these values for your table? And if you did not, then your equation is wrong, but you should get the same value of tables. Okay, given the initial value. So again, when you see initial means what letter are we talking about? A. How do I know my a? My a is my y-intercept wherever my x is 0. So even when I'm not looking at this, I see this table, I know, oh my god, my a is 7. How do I know? Because my y is 0. I'm going to say it many times till we all get it. So it says find the values of a and b and express an equation, it's written twice, that may be represented for this table. And we'll go over the steps also. You can use the steps, but I always like to do the question, and then you should be able to generate the steps, and those steps should make more sense to you. So you already know your a is 7. Again, why? Because that's a y-intercept. This is the initial value. And b is how are we growing this, right? There's so many ways of doing it, but what number are we multiplying to get to 14? 2. Is it the same number? 2. How do I get this? You can either do 28 divided by 14, I get 2. 14 divided by 7, I get 2. 56 divided by 28, I get 2. So your b is what? 2. Again, it's a growth, right? So your equation is going to be, always write your equation on top and then substitute. Your a is 7 and your b is 2x. Now look. So this is what I did above question like, right? But every time your initial value might not be given, or like, you know, if your initial value was given just using the initial value, how could you find b using the equation? So I'm going to show you that also. So you already know that your initial was 7 and your b was this, and that was your x. You can pick any other point. any other second coordinate. Either you can pick 114, 228, 356. Does not matter. I'm going to pick 114 and I'm going to substitute for x and y. F of x is the same thing as y. Remember that. So I'm going to say 14 equals 7 times b to the, what was x? X was what? 1. It's to the 1. Right? Again, you cannot multiply this. First you do the exponent. So b to the first is b. So it's 7b. 14 is equal to 7b. B is equal to what? Divide by 7. Divide by 7. I get b equals 2. Which I did end up with the same equation, but I needed you to, what if you couldn't see all the values? They weren't given in order, like they were skipping. Like it was 0, 1, then 5 was given to you. So if you didn't have enough information, this is how you could have found your B when your A was given. And now let's read the steps real quick. It says substitute the initial value into A. So that's what we did. We substituted the initial value into A right here, right? And then use the second pair of coordinates to substitute it into B and X, which is what we did. Solve for B and write the equation. Actually, it should be substituted into Y and X. That would confuse you. Substitute into Y and X, right? Because that's what we substitute. We substitute Y with 14 and X with 1, and we solve for B. And write your equation. That's what we are trying to get to. Okay. Now what happens if your initial value is not given to you, like you're not given the y-intercept, right? That is your A. You're given, it says find an exponential form of function of the form k of x equals abx, given that k of -1 equals 4 and k of 1 equals 1. How do I interpret that into a point? This means that my x is -1 and y is 4. So that's my 1 point. My second point is 1, 1. Right? So I know if you're given 2 points, how do you find your exponential equation? So you're going to set up 2 equations. This is your x and that's your y. You're going to set up 2 equations. So my first equation would be 4 equals a b to the -1. Do we agree? The second equation would be 1 equals a b to the first power. Okay, this is like how you do systems. When you did addition and subtraction, you used to cancel them. But here it's what? What's the relationship between A and B? It's being multiplied. What is inverse of multiplication? Division. So when we're solving exponential equations, we actually divide one equation by the other. I always like to keep my bigger numbers on the numerator. If you divided the second by first, it won't be wrong. So it doesn't matter. So what happens? I'm dividing each with it. 4 divided by 1 is just 4. A divided by A, what? Cancels out, right? Something divided by itself cancels out. Now, B to the -1, I'm going to write that so that I can show it to you over B. Let's simplify this. Again, it's division. When bases are same, what do you do to your exponents? Subtract them. So 4 equals -1 minus 1, which is B to the -2, right? Now I want to get rid of this -2. So what am I going to do? Raise it to the reciprocal power, which is what? It's -2 over 1, so it'll be -1 over 2. I'm going to raise this side also to -1 over 2 power. You can either use the calculator or solve it. This cancels out. So if B equals, you have a negative exponent. So I'm going to make it positive by moving that in the denominator. And I still have an exponent of 1/2. 1/2 exponent is same thing as what? Square root of 4. So it is 1 over 2. So B is 1 over 2. You know your B. Now we want to find our A. Just found B. How do I find A? I can take my B and substitute in any of the 2 equations. Doesn't matter. I'm going to take the second one, looks much easier. So I'm going to do 1 equals A times 1/2 to the first power, which is what? A over 2 equals 1. Cross multiply or multiply both sides by 1/2, which is A is equal to 2. So you got A is 2. You're not done. You want the equation, right? It says over here. So I'm going to write y equals, what's my A? 2 parentheses 1/2 caret x. You don't substitute anything for x and y, and you find your A and B. That's what you do. Okay, so let's look at the steps. It says substitute the y, Substitute the points into y equals abx to create a system of equations. You did create a system. You created two equations here. Divide the equations. That's the most important thing. You divide. Many people will add them, subtract them. Think about it. I want to get rid of one variable. So what do? I will divide. Okay? And then I just want to use the b value to obtain a. For most part, your a will cancel out, right? Because a is to the first power, so a is cancel out, and b you will have to do your rules of exponents and then write your equation. So let's try two more of these. I'm going to do numbers 1 and 2 with you, and then I'm going to ask you to finish the remaining for homework. So again, it's giving you 2 points and it's asking you to write down the equation, and they're passing through these 2 points, right? So my first equation is going to be y equals, when in doubt, write x and y on top so that you don't make mistakes. So I know my equation is y equals abx, a, b, and when I say x is in the exponent. So I'm going to write my first equation. So y is what? 30 equals a times b to the x, which is first. The second equation is 187.5 equals, what's my a? I don't know. B, I don't know. I want to find it. Cube, right? And I'm going to divide them. If you don't feel comfortable dividing small numbers over big, you can choose to do 187. You can rewrite this again and divide this by that, okay? It won't be wrong. Doesn't matter. So let's do the second equation divided by the first, so then you don't have to deal with negative exponents, right? So what happens? 187.5 divided by 30 is 6.25. And what happens to your a's? They cancel out, right? And remember, in division, when bases are same, you subtract the exponents. Again, I didn't say this. MADS. Multiplication, add, division, subtract. That's what we're focusing on. So it's division. So 3 minus 1 is 2. How do you get rid of the square? You square root it or raise it to the reciprocal. Isn't square rooting same thing as raising it to the 1/2 power? So in your calculator, you will be doing second square root, second answer, because you already had 6.25 in the calculator. So you get b is equal to 2.5, which is a growth, right? It's a number greater than 1. These, I know the question's not asking, but if you think about it, it's growth. So you know your b. Now you can substitute into any of the two equations. You have equation 1 and equation 2 and find your a. Which would be easier? Wouldn't it be easier to substitute in a? So I'm going to take that 30 equals a times 2.5 to the first. So basically I'm going to divide by 2.5. A equals 30 divided by 2.5, which is what? A equals 12. So I got a equals 12 and b equals 2.5. So my equation is going to be y equals 12 times 2.5 caret x. So that is my exponential equation. And you can always check. Put this in y1 and go to your table and see, are these points in your graph? Okay, the next question. Again, if you look at this graph, it is a decay, right? So it's a decay, so means your b should be a number between 0 and 1. Remember, your b cannot be negative. So here, again, you're going to use those 2 points to come up with your equation. So it's going to be, I'm going to rewrite the equation, y equals ab to the x. So this is your x, that's your y, x, y. So I'm going to write 128 equals ab to the negative 2. And then I'm going to write 1/2 equals ab to the second. And what do? Which operation? I divide the two systems. What is 128 divided by 1/2? It's same thing as multiplying by 2. So it is 256. The a's cancel out. So b to the negative 2 over b squared would be what? b to the negative 2 minus 2, which is b to the negative 4. So I have b to the negative 4 equals 256, right? So how do I get rid of my negative exponent, raise it to the reciprocal of it. So negative 4's reciprocal would be negative 1/4, and I'm going to raise this also to negative 1/4. You can literally put that into the calculator or do the math and see what are you getting. So see, I'm going to do it here. This cancels out, so I'm left with b. I'm going to make this positive, so it's going to be 1 over 256 to the 4th power, right? So what number do I multiply? 4 to the 4th power is 256, so actually b is equal to 1 over 4. I don't want to use decimals. I know if you put this in the calculator, you would have gotten 0.25. So do math, enter, and that would give you 1 over 4. Okay? So I just don't want, no, please don't use decimals. Use fractions only. So you got your b. Now you want to use that b and find your a. I would use the second equation. I can use any of these two equations. That's equation 1 and 2. You can use any of the two equations. I just like to work with positive exponents, so we can do that, right? So I'm going to do 1/2. Let me change color here. So 1/2 equals a times, I'm going to say 1/4 to the second, right? So it's going to be a equals, I'm going to zoom in here. So it would be 1 square is just 1, 4 squared is 16. So I have that. I am going to multiply this by 16 over 1, this side also by 16 over 1 to cancel this because I want to solve for a. What is 16 over 2 is 8. So my a is 8. I got my a 8. I had my b to be 1/4. So my equation is going to be y equals 8 parentheses 1 over 4 x. And look at this, your b is between 0 and 1, right? It's a number less than 1, and this is a decay, which we already noticed, right? So finish up remaining of the packet. You don't have many questions left, so make sure you show your work. The only thing I'm going to get you started is, like, don't get overwhelmed that, oh my god, these are word problems. Here, if you read carefully, I'm going to get you started, and then it'll be easier for you to follow along. Your x is your number of hours and your y is your population, right? So it's talking about your bacteria colonies. So 4 will be what, your x. So the first point is what? In 4 hours, the population is what? 98. So that's your first point. The second point is what? 9 hours, it's 189. So that's your second point. So you got your 2 points, and use that similarly we did in the other questions to find your a and b. Okay, and number 5 also. You never use the actual years. It's talking about actual years. You never use actual years in your question. It's always will give you a reference year. It's telling you that since 2000. So 2002 would be what? Year 2. So in year 2, the population was what? 380. In year 6, the population was 517. So you're not going to use the actual 2002 or 2006. You never do in math. You never do whenever you're using in calculator. When we get into our stats unit also, you'll see we don't use the actual years. We are always given a reference year to do. Because if you did use 2006 and 2002, you'll get like crazy numbers. I don't even know what they'll be like, but I'm just telling you that they will be crazy. So do those questions, and if you have any questions, to reach out to your teachers. So good luck, guys. Have a great day.